Good morning, Crystal. Crystal
Good
Howell
morning. Great to
is,
see you.
yeah,
And the new look as well. Very nice.
yeah.
Very nice.
Crystal is a certified internal auditor, and she's here to help you manage those pennies for back to school.
Yes.
So, what are some of the things that we should look at first as we get ready for that season? I know many people would have started as soon as the last term ended, trying to get those early before the last minute rush.
Well, the good thing about back to school is the one thing related to children that is not a surprise. Back to school is the same time every year. And just like we've been discussing over all of these weeks, when you have a plan and you know something is coming up, you start to budget for it. So for many people, as you said, they would have started as soon as the one school term ends, they start planning for the next. And it helps if you kept track of all of your receipts so that you have an idea of how much you would have spent.
All right. You've been telling us that. Now, Crystal has been telling us that for the past few months, a few weeks, but writing everything down is critical. So knowing exactly what you need, knowing exactly what you're working with is critical. So make sure you take note of it. It's not the easiest thing to do, writing down everything you spend if you're not accustomed to doing that.
But as she said, it's not a surprise. So these are things that, if you're not a newbie to it, you should be accustomed to. So it's all about making sure that you get your house in order when you're getting ready for that back to school period. It
I'm
starts
sorry,
in
that was a
September.
mosquito. I was told to be just as afraid of the mosquitoes as I am of centipedes.
Okay,
So
that's true because they do carry
Yeah.
dengue fever.
now I need a wet wipe. So I know my darling Satya will help me at some point in time. Right, let's carry on.
Crystal, yes, you were telling us about the fact that we know that it's coming every year
I'm
at this
glad that
particular
everybody
time.
has it down pat because I wanted to make sure it's drilled into person's heads because it's how we help to plan moving forward. So for those of you who have not, the best way to be able to get an idea, even if you're starting a bit late, is to go out there and to see what the costs of certain things are as soon as you can and be able to prioritize what is most important, which for school children, sometimes it feels though everything is important, but there are certain things you might be able to say, okay, I have to get these school books.
Yes.
So maybe if I don't have enough money for everything, let's see how these uniforms are looking. And you may decide instead of getting new school uniforms, maybe I can go to a tailor or a seamstress and have them adjusted or patched up so that they look a little bit better even if they're not brand new. And you look at the different ways that you can say, okay, maybe I can do this and maybe I can do that so that I can adjust myself and plan better for next year. Because for those who have not been able to get it done up to this point, hopefully we're able to help guide you now as to what you can do for next year, because there's nothing wrong if you've missed the boat this year, getting yourself prepared for next year.
So it's all about looking for those areas where you can save a little bit.
Correct. So if you know that school shoes are, I have no idea how much school shoes cost nowadays.
Like
but
$150 if you're buying
Depends.
decent leather
It
shoes.
depends on what you're buying, because what some of these school children are buying now may be a bit more expensive.
But here's
What?
Yeah.
Anyhow.
here's the thing. You want to make sure you're getting, sometimes for some people, quality over, something that might be a more affordable option. I remember when I was going to school, my mother, she got onto the boat late and all the school uniforms were gone, but she could make clothes for herself.
That's important.
And she went into one of the clothing stores and she got the material, and because she was last minute, she didn't get the material that was more affordable, so she was forced to buy more expensive material. But when she made the uniforms, she made them extremely big
So they
because she
lasted.
assumed that I would grow, which didn't really happen. But because the material was a better quality, it lasted for the 3 years
Yes.
that I was at school without fading. So those are the kind of things you could take into consideration. She was really upset at first that she had to spend that extra money, but then she didn't have to buy uniforms for another 3 years.
Right. So spend a little more sometimes where it's critical so that you get better value for,
For
money,
money.
over a longer
Yes,
period.
and that's something a lot of persons, because you're so strapped for cash, you want
Yeah.
to cut those corners, but it can work out for you in the long run.
So I guess how much you spend will depend on how old the child is.
Yes.
Yeah. So note that file that way.
What are some of the other areas, as you say, you don't try to cut corners really, but that you can really get some savings so that those dollars stretch. We're paying more for bus fare as well too.
Yes.
So you got to take that into consideration because the children need to get to school, however.
Yes. One of the other things I wanted to make sure I got in today is that the whole idea of back to school loans, because those are things that come up every single year as well. And persons may be tempted to take it and use it for everything. So you have to take into consideration how much do you have to pay back every single month when you get that back to school loan.
And how much do you really need?
Exactly. Are you taking the amount of money that you need to get you through, and are you making sure you're using it strictly for the purpose of back to school and not spending it on things that won't give you a return? You also take into consideration the same thing we mentioned before. If you're going to be spending extra on quality and you don't have that cash put down, the back to school loan may help you to be able to get that quality so you could save in the long run. But you have to bear in mind the interest rate, how much you're paying back each month, if it's something you can really afford, and if in the long run it works out to be more than you would have spent if you had gotten as much cash together as possible. To see if you can supplement it, because some people do have the cash but they prefer to borrow. You have to work out which one has the better payback for you as an individual.
Yeah.
And when you look at the back to school loan, you don't want to be caught up paying it back, but having to go back for another one next year,
Correct.
but struggling to pay that one all year round.
Correct.
Right.
Which happens to some persons, and you also have to compare in. You have to also add on what else do you have going on. Some people have mortgage or rent. They have
Several children.
Exactly. You have a lot of different responsibilities. So it may seem easy to be able to just get this loan and get everything sorted out and not have to worry about it because the amount you pay back is so small. But when you have this small amount and that small amount and this small amount, it begins to get overwhelming how much debt you actually have. So you need to think about those things as well, because your mental well-being is as important as your financial well-being.
What would you say about planning so far ahead that maybe you get the school closed even, bit by bit before the whole back to school?
The school
Time
closed
comes.
one is a little,
Tricky?
might be tricky, because especially if it's primary school children, if you have a child like me that's not going to grow,
Growth spurts.
it's fine. But you will have to take that into account. You can do that. Some persons do it out of season. I know some persons who wait till after all the school rush to go and buy things because they tend to be on discount afterwards.
That's another thing.
So
Sales.
that has happened. I remember I bought some school clothes and uniforms for some children very late. I came onto the train very late, and because all the after school rush was gone, I got the things at almost half price. And I found it was a really huge advantage, because then I was able to buy a lot more than what I had originally planned.
Excellent.
So those are things you could take into consideration as well.
Yeah, just look for those good deals. Any way that you can save money and let that dollar stretch is a good opportunity for you to get and maximize what you have to get for back to school. But we'll be dealing a lot with that over the next few days and weeks. So thank you so much, Crystal. Always a pleasure. Great information.